So it's International Coaches Week, and which is May 13th and 19th. And this year, the theme for International Coaches Week is really celebrating the power and impact of coaching. So, in order to celebrate, what I decided to do was talk to my friends who are coaches or do some coaching in what they do in their day-to-day lives. And I wanted to talk to my good friend Dhaval, who I've known forever. He was the person who taught me how to be a great Scrum Master, how to be a product owner in the Scrum world. And so when I was thinking about people that I could talk to, he came to mind. So I'm going to throw to you and let you introduce yourself, talk about what you do, and how coaching finds its way into what you do.
Well, thank you so much, Leah. It's such a fantastic feeling to know that even after almost a decade or so, we get to connect in this way. What we do, I'm a founder of Evolve Agility. What we offer to our customers and our clients is primarily consulting, coaching, and training services. And the boundary that we draw is around Agile. Like, how do you apply Agile values and principles in your organization, in your team, at an individual or a personal level? And that's the guardrails that we use as a way to talk about how the world of work can be better or different, because individuals have an impact. They have an impact on how they engage with their peers, how they show up to work. Teams have impact on how a collection of people working towards the same goal, how does that benefit the larger organization? And of course, the organization has a tremendous amount of impact, not only on its customers, but also on society and the environment that they are part of, right?
Yeah.
So in that level, like, how can you apply Agile values, principles, practices, the insights that we have learned over the last 20, 25 years of applying Agile in the world of work? How might you apply it for yourself, and what does that evolution look like? And that's what Evolve Agility is all about.
Yeah, oh, I love it. I mean, you know how much I have loved building products and how much more fun it is to do that when you have this mindset, like the ability to
Right.
think together, to plan together, to think about how each of those levels is impacting each other, but ultimately, how is what you're doing impacting a customer or a user or somebody that's going to use whatever it is that you're bringing to the world. So
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So talk to me a little bit about when you're thinking about clients that you love to work with.
Right.
Who is your favorite? Who are your favorite clients, type of clients? You don't have to name a person, but who are your
Right.
favorite types of clients that you love to work with?
Yeah. If I were to draw a spectrum, the clients that I love to work with are curious, right? And they are curious, and the behavior manifests in two different ways. On one spectrum, the behavior is, I am open to learning, my glass is half empty, and I'm ready to receive coaching and work with you. The other extreme is, I know everything, what can coaching do for me? Because in the middle is what you don't get is engagement from the other person.
Yeah.
On the extremes, on the person who is ready to receive, they are ready to do the work, to define, frame, own their own problems, and then find their own path to their own solution, which is the ideal client for a coaching type situation.
Right.
On the other hand, you might also find someone who is like, I don't know what coaching is. I don't really think I need coaching. What I really want or need is your input or your advice.
Right.
And oftentimes, those type of clients become one of the biggest supporters after they experience what coaching looks like.
Right.
It's in the middle where they are not sure, and they have too many beliefs that are unchallengeable or unquestionable, and they're not open to even sharing it in a coaching conversation. That's when I feel coaching is not a good fit, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Uh, Ideally, the arc of a client that I would like to see, and I've seen successful with Evolve Agility, is spend some time to learn about who we are, learn about your coach. The way we make it accessible for our future clients to learn about who we are is by taking a leadership course or by taking a scaling course, similar to you taking a Scrum Master or Product Owner course. It's about a couple of days of investment of your time, which is more valuable than the money because you'll make it at some
Yeah.
point. But that 2 days that you will spend, I feel a lot of people that come through our training workshops walk away with the awareness of what they don't know that they don't know,
Yeah.
right? And that is the ideal starting point for us to then say, okay, given the challenges that you are experiencing, Should we now engage in a consulting type engagement? Should we engage in a consulting slash coaching? Or is it purely coaching? I rarely find someone purely interested in coaching, and this
Mhm.
is perhaps because how Evolve Agility has positioned
Sure.
itself. Like, we don't exclusively offer coaching. What we offer is solutions to problems in a meaningful way.
Right. Right.
And 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 in that solutions to problems, sometimes it is training, sometimes it is advisory, and sometimes it is a place where I, as a coach or a consultant, know that my experience is actually going to be detrimental to you. So I will not use my advice, I will not use my teaching, but I will ask you to engage in a coaching style relationship. And that's where the amplifier kicks in. There's only so much individual experience, and I have more than 20 years of experience working in a variety of fields, but I have not seen the whole world. You
No,
see?
exactly.
So there's always going to be something unique or interesting about your situation. And where I realize that I may not be the right advisor, I'll encourage you to engage in a coaching conversation with me.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of a arc or a transition that I recommend people make when they start engaging with Evolve Agility.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's interesting that you say that because like you, I think I have had people come to me who maybe have been told they need a coach and then they show up and they don't want to coach, right? And
Right,
and they
right.
and they may be in that middle sort of ambivalence. Or I've even had people come to me, to your earlier point, that didn't want to coach or like, nah, I got this. And we start talking about something, and pretty soon they're like, oh, maybe I do need a coach, right? Like that
Yes, yes.
we'll start discussing. They just want my advice, like you said, they want to know about my background, what have you done before? And
Mm-hmm.
often when someone wants that from me, the first thing I start doing is asking them questions so that I understand what they're really looking for. And I think
Right.
the art of asking each other questions, there's an
Mm-hmm.
element of coaching that comes into that, even when I'm going to tell them what I would do, right? Even if,
Right.
well,
Yeah.
in the past, I've had that experience, here's what I've done. To get there, I usually want to know 3 or 4 things, 5, 6 things, right? And just the art of showing them how I get to there makes them kind of like, oh, actually, I
Mm,
do need someone to ask me questions, right? Because people
yes.
we need to ask each other questions, and there's a need there for a lot of leaders. And so I think it is interesting
Yes.
to talk about it because I've had that experience too.
And
Yeah.
and and I find the coaching skills, Leah, are definitely, it's a skill. What that means is, as a skill, you have to practice to get better at it. So it is not innate. It's not that I was born a coach or someone cannot be a coach because they were not born to be. So it's nothing about innateness.
Yeah.
It's about a skill, and that skill can be developed with practice.
Yeah.
The beauty of coaching that I find to be quite powerful is it creates that space within you as a coach
Yeah.
to have that emptiness, and to ask a question that is a genuine curiosity for you and as well for your coachee.
Yeah.
In my leadership training, I often ask people to engage in a coaching conversation, and that is one of the most powerful activities that we do. Even people who have had never understood or never had experience with coaching, with just enough guidance. Of course, the skill level requires a lot of practice for them to get better at. But when they partner up with their peer leader and they use the framework of coaching, the framework of coaching that I use is a grow model to engage in that one-on-one conversation. When they use that framework, they come out of that 20-minute, 40-minute conversation as a totally different person. I mean, and I can see that in their eyes. I can see there in their demeanor. I can say in the leadership workshop, before the coaching activity and after the coaching activity, I
Yeah.
have a different learner with me, and that is beautiful to see.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. And it's true. Like when they get it, I always laugh that I always say that when I'm coaching someone and it clicks, something about
Right?
posture changes, they lift their head,
Yes, yes,
all of
yes,
a sudden their body actually says, "Oh, coach me." Right?
yes,
And
yes.
it's like, "Oh, okay, I'm in." Right? So it's like my
Uh-huh.
curiosity leaning close to them makes them at some point sit up and go, "Oh, wait, something's happening." Right? And I love that moment. It's part of why I do this. So
Right.
I love
Yeah.
yeah, very cool. Is there anything about sort of what you do, the coaching world, that you think you wish people knew, or a myth about kind of coaching and consulting that you wish you could dispel? If you could wave, fairy magic over everyone and say, I believe that. What
Right,
would you
right.
say?
Um, Perhaps it'll be a very nuanced take, and unfortunately, that is the challenge when you talk to people who've been in the field long enough. There is no
Yeah,
clear black or white, like
right.
this is wrong and this is right. Yeah.
Yeah,
A notion that I wish the coaching community understood, especially in the agile space, because that's where I play,
yeah,
is the sense of being a player coach, which has been derided for the longest time.
yeah,
In other words, what I mean by a player coach is someone who has experienced a environment that you've been. That doesn't mean they have all the answers to your specific situation, but the experience of being in the agile space as an engineer, as an architect, as a product owner, as a scrum master, as an agile practitioner. What that experience does for you is it helps you to fine tune your sensitivities to things that you would not know if you are coming from a stance of pure ignorance.
yeah,
So I find a player coach can recognize when they need to stand on the space of ignorance. In other words, dispel everything that they know about how something needs to be done to focus on the person and their journey. But they will not have the right questions if they don't have the sensitivity
yeah,
to the environment. And that's where I find someone who's never played in a particular field
yeah,
enters that field to offer coaching, they don't have the sensitivity to have the right kind of questions or the right kind of stance or the empathy at minimum to
no,
understand what might be going on for your coachee. I find player coaches to be far more successful in the field
yeah, yeah,
because they don't hold on to coaching as the only skill that they bring. At times, they can say, when I was trying to implement this in my situation, here's how we approached it.
yeah,
And personally, I have a set of tenets, and you can find them out on our website.
okay,
Yeah, I wrote an article around 8 principles of coaching that I use, and one of them is explicitly enter and exit the coaching. I tend to use the movie scene clipboard, like
yeah, yes, yeah, that,
now I'm entering coach mode.
yeah,
Now I'm exiting coach mode
yeah,
because I also like to be a friend of people, and a
yeah,
friend is different than being a coach
yes,
to a person. Right?
for
So
sure.
I want to talk about the weather. I want to talk about the sports or whatever else
Right,
is going on. And when I'm doing that, I'm not coaching.
right.
But
No,
when I am, I'm explicitly entering and exiting my coaching stance.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I do the same. I mean, I even have clients who are people that have been my friends or who worked for me before. And so being
Right?
very clear, like, hey, I'm going to sound like your former boss for a second. Let me tell you what I know about you. Right. Which is very different than when I'm trying to just be open and come to the table with just questions, right? Versus,
Mm-hmm.
or they become friends, right? And so there's an element of that. But I think one thing you said about the player coach that I think has been really interesting for me is that um as I'm coaching, especially new executives,
Mm-hmm.
having been one helps, right?
Yes.
Because I'm coming from a place where they go, well, "What was it like for you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that
Yeah.
was lonely. That was hard. This was fun. I never
Right.
want to do that again. I do love this part." And there's an element to your point of there's an empathy where I really can stand in with them on their side of the discussion and say, "Yeah, yeah,
Right.
I've been here side by side. I see what you're saying, right?" In a
Right.
way that I think I mean, I worked for some CEOs who had a coach who had never been in tech. She'd never
Mm-hmm.
been an executive. And I was like, what is she coaching you on? I was like, your
Right.
relationship? What is she coaching you on? I don't understand how she can even put herself here.
Right.
And
Right.
it was an okay situation, but her empathy was often off the mark, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She tried, but and she was a lovely
Right.
person. She missed the mark sometimes because I was like, she'd never done this. She doesn't know being a founder like I know watching a
Right.
founder, and so yeah, I think it's a really good point.
I know, right? I mean, in popular culture, Ted Lasso has gained a lot of popularity,
Yeah,
and the degree of empathy that Ted Lasso shows, the degree of connectedness to the larger purpose of the team that character shows, is quite heartwarming to see.
yeah,
What people forget is that that is a fiction.
right.
What that means is Ted Lasso has all the skills for empathy, people building, team building, but that is not the only skill that a coach needs
Right,
in a particular situation.
right. Right.
if you look at the facts of the real world in the soccer universe, or as football, you would call it in UK, Leah, right?
Yes.
A lot of coaches have had awareness of what the game is, at minimum, what the rules of the game are.
Right.
How are people expected to behave and perform? So
Right.
to some degree, they're not only Ted Lasso. There is a lot more to them than being the Ted Lasso,
Right.
you know?
Right. Well, and you find even in that character, if you think about that character, he needs Beard, who Coach Beard, who is
Yes,
absolutely taught himself the sport before
yes,
they ever show up in London, right?
yes,
He needs eventually to be excellent. He needs Roy,
yes,
who
yes,
fully Roy has played, right? And the only way that Ted can actually make it work is that he has these two guys who he can turn to and be like, "What's the rule here?" They tell him, and he's like, "Okay," and so that makes comedy.
yes,
But you and I
yes.
both know that would be really hard on the field to make that work, right?
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
it's a good show. It's well written, and that empathy that he contains is what we all go, "Oh, we miss that," right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
he has to be buffeted, which most of our teams
Totally.
are also like that. We need to be buffeted
Yes.
by others who fill in the gaps we don't have, right?
Yeah. And that's a fantastic segue into one final comment,
Yes.
which is around coaching at the team level or an organization or enterprise level. You can't be an individual. You need a team.
Yeah.
You need to create your own team of coaches, and how you align with your peers on what each other's strengths are and build up on that to then service a client who's going through an agile transformation or an enterprise level change, matters a lot, because what you want to avoid is the Three Stooges problem, where you have three so-called coaches who are mostly creating trouble for each other,
Right.
and the client is wondering, what are we paying for?
What's happening? Why are you guys making this worse, not better, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. And I think this part of the reason to piggyback on that I'm doing this is that I often run into clients that I think, "Ooh, I am not the right coach for you.
yes,
I think what your problem is significant. You need help, and I don't think I'm it, but I know people. So let me
yes,
find you someone, right? Or maybe the
exactly.
training doesn't work or whatever." And so sometimes somebody would approach me and be like, "Hey, can you do agile coaching?" And I'm like, "I mean, I could. Am I the
Hmm.
best person to do it? Absolutely not."
Right,
Right? If I
right.
know somebody, right? And so I think that's where, for me, this kind of opening the doors and saying, "Hey, I'm a coach, but look at all these coaches I know," it's really fun. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Leah.
Yeah, thanks for coming. How can I'll put your information so that everybody can
Yes,
see
please.
it. If you're
Uh-huh.
watching this, you can see it. But how can people reach out to you? Are you accepting clients? Kind of what's your story right now?
Yes, evolveagility.com. You can join my newsletter. There are multiple ways to join that. And yes, of course, I'm always looking to work with leaders or people who are interested in personal, team, or organizational development. What I like to call what we are doing is we are uncovering better ways of creating learning organizations. And that requires at minimum people willing to learn. So
Awesome.
however way we can help, I'm more than happy to accept and work with
Excellent.
you.
Excellent. And also, if anybody's watching and needs information about how to get in touch, you can also reach out to me and I'll make a connection. So if you're not sure, but all of his information is right here below us, for you to reach out and contact him. Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Leah.